Hello, 2026. It's your friends with your favorite Magic the Gathering podcast that your friends have never heard of. I'm Levi.
I'm Jacoby.
And I'm Joe.
And this is the Thought Vessel. Welcome to the show. We are back in a brand new year. And of course, we're going to be looking back before we move forward with all of our New Year's resolutions, what we want to do in the next year, what did we do last year, kind of looking back and seeing what wisdom we were able to bring with us from 2025. Of course, we're going to get started here with a personal question. What is a New Year's tradition that isn't really a tradition, but you think should be a tradition? Jacoby.
Yeah, I gotta gather the friends and have a friend's Christmas.
A friend's Christmas, like between Christmas and New Year's?
It's like Friendsgiving, but with your extended family.
All right. I can see that.
I don't quite put it under the classification of the white elephant gift exchange because you can do that with strangers.
You can. It's more fun when you get people you know, because like you know which buttons to push to cause a little chaos.
Right.
Yeah, especially if you got a very specific gift for somebody and then someone's just like, I didn't like mine, so now we're doing a white elephant. That literally was the episode of The Office. It's like the first one.
I remember last Christmas, my friends looked at me and they're like, for you. And they handed me the funny gag of 30 omnaths.
Last Christmas, I gave you my heart. And the very next day, you gave it away.
No, that's not what happened. That's not how I remember it. Try the other way around.
George Michaels remembers it that way.
Side note, that's a fantastic movie. Joe, how about you?
So mine's actually Magic related. And honestly, I think it would be pretty good. Joey from EDH Rec recommended just breaking down your decks to see if you got a kind of feel for that. A good tradition would be to break down the decks that you made from 2025 to see if you still have a pull to any of those decks to rebuild them.
So kind of just being like, oh, okay, I built this deck in January because that set released, and then coming back at the end of the year and being like, did I play you more than once?
Yeah, do I still have some kind of sparked joy with that deck?
Okay, I see it.
Basically a deconstruction of the last year. If there was any kind of deck that was quote unquote bad to you, you'd no longer have that deck. And you may even find some of your new favorites from past year as well.
Everyone listening to this podcast that plays Magic, at least, is going to have at least one deck, probably more than one, that they're keeping together almost out of like an obligation or like well, what if I want to put it back together? Or like, what if I want to play this at some point? I know I've got a couple right now that I'm like, I really should take you apart. But every time I try, I'm like, but that's a fun interaction. I don't want to do that again. Maybe it's just a matter of retweaking those and doing something a little bit differently. That's a good one. For me, we do a lot of what I want to change or what I want to accomplish in the new year. It'd be nice to have, this isn't Magic related at all, but I think having a bonfire and just throwing something in the bonfire for everybody I'm leaving in 2025 or whatever it is, just to start out with a clean slate.
You walk into the new year, you pull out your Magic collection. Yeah, this card did me dirty. And you throw a One Ring right into the fire.
Cast it into the fire, Lever. Destroy it!
No.
After all, why shouldn't I? Why shouldn't I keep it?
It's $32.
Y'all ridiculous. Getting a chance to not necessarily like, I'm going to do something different, but just like, I need to stop this. And just giving a chance to kind of put in the past, I think would be a good tradition moving forward. We got a lot of other things to talk about today. More Magic focused, as this is a Magic the Gathering podcast. You're here for Magic the Gathering content. Let's start out with, what do you think is the best set of the year and the worst set of the year? Because this is the kind of the tipping point in which we started getting a lot more Universes Beyond. We got a little bit less on the actual Magic IP side of things. Jacoby, which one was your favorite set of the year, which we all know already, and which one was the worst set of the year?
Called out.
Yeah, correctly. I mean, obviously, it's gotta be Final Fantasy. Best set of the century.
Order your Starbucks. It's okay.
I will, because if anyone else can drink the Elf Ball Kool-Aid, I can enjoy my Final Fantasy. And then worst set this year. Personally, worst set this year, I have to say Aether Drift.
That's probably going to be a very popular one. Very, very unliked. Terrible and limited because of all the vehicles, and it was harder to get the creatures to crew them. made it for very awkward situations. There wasn't a lot of powerful cards in that set. There wasn't a lot of high value in that set. A lot of people just weren't really vibing with the racing aesthetic. The lore was confusing. It's like, well, there's this giant racetrack going through a plane that's based off of ancient Egypt. We never noticed this before. It was weird.
Here's another thing, right? I started out being really infatuated with Hashiton, the backup commander to the Esper Precon. The start of the video today, we mentioned decks you wouldn't put back together. And I'm kind of sitting there, I'm like, I haven't touched, tweaked, or felt any inspiration for Hashiton since his release. I played it, I have it, and I'm kind of sitting here, I'm like, I don't know if I care. And the Toy Stories meme, like, I don't want to play with you anymore as I drop the deck into my backpack.
I think it's because it's one of those commanders that people tried in CDH for a while, and then it kind of got tossed to the side. And then is Bracket 4 going to pick it up? Is Bracket 4 not going to pick up? Bracket 4 in and of itself is a very confusing bracket for most people to navigate. It's one of those Bracket 4 jail commanders, as I like to call them. We don't really know what to do with them, and that definitely tanks popularity. I can see that for sure.
And that's exactly where my Hashiton lives.
Just the last little bit is every other precon since then, every set had the Spice deck. The set right after that, we got T'Pol, Hammer House. Then the set after that, Final Fantasy. We got the Tidus deck that could TKO you on turn 4. And then the set after that, we got the ridiculous Graveyard deck from Edge of Eternities. Every single set after that one had at least one absolute banger deck that was just like, why do you exist?
Even then, in Final Fantasy, given the fact that I've seen those commanders be played by Joe Johnson, the Cloud Precon with the Tifa backup commander, that deck in Joe Johnson's hands with the upgrade that he made, terrifying.
How about you, Joe?
The best set for me this year was definitely Dragonstorm. I got real hard into it. The story was extremely good. Funny enough, this is where we see the downfall of Jace, flying too close to the sun as the magic Icarus that he is, unleashing Nicol Bolas from within the Dragonstorm, because that's when we found out, oh, they were in the meditation realm. And so Nicol Bolas is coming back. Don't know if he's sparked up or not. Certainly caked up.
I am terrified and excited to see Bolas back, because the way they did him was kind of cool. But the fact that he's back gives me hope that we'll see something akin to that for Phyrexia at some point in the distant future.
And hopefully some new people too. Big bads that aren't just constantly recycling between Bolas and the Phyrexians over and over.
The other side of Dragonstorm was the fact that it brought me back to when I started buying Magic cards again, when I was really trying to feel a lot of my roots within color identity. When I first got back towards Magic, it was in the Theros block because that was really cool, but it didn't really hit its stride until we got into Tarkir and I saw all of the cool imagery, all of the cool cards to play with. That's when I still thought that I was a Mardu player. I was going off of the actual liking of the colors and not necessarily the mechanics and how they operate. You had cards like Ankle Shanker just really getting me invested.
Good old Ankle Shanker.
And the dash mechanic. The dash mechanic was fantastic. We didn't get that in this set. They, in fact, had different kinds of mechanics to play around with. Truthfully, a lot of the commanders were still very fun to build around and still kind of felt pretty unique. I built Bellathar, I built Eshki Dragonclaw. Eshki Dragonclaw really put me back into my teamer headspace. And I love that deck, especially given the fact that I tried to really jam in the 33 lands, 33 creatures, 33 non-creatures, just so I could be balanced, as all good things should be.
One last thing is that I really enjoyed the Sieges, where we got a card of 2 colors that got to touch on a pair, the wedges or shards. That was nice.
And your worst set, Joe?
Truthfully, I didn't like Spider-Man. I thought I would. Aether Drift I actually had a whole lot more fun with. I did like the racing bits and motifs. Even if the max speed did not do well, there were still other things that were very interesting aesthetically. It spawned one of my favorite formats, Pilot. But Spider-Man, I feel like they just dropped the ball. They rushed it too hard. I think it was going to originally be like the Assassin's Creed set treatment where they had smaller boosters. The smaller amount in the set made it really hard to diversify in a draft environment, especially with a lot of the chase cards being a little out of reach for a lot of people.
Yeah. I'll kind of shift over to mine because I'm similar to a lot of what y'all have been saying. The least favorite set of mine, it kind of went between both Spider-Man and Either Drift. The main difference is with Spider-Man, there were cards that I liked. Like, it wasn't a very deep set. It was kind of few and far between, like, finding the cards. I loved the Peter Parker Spider-Man. I loved Eddie Brock Venom. I loved Miles Morales. Having characters that I really enjoy, and I'll touch on that a little bit later on in this episode as well. There was some good things, like I don't particularly draft all that often, so that's not a huge turnoff for me as far as the set is concerned. But Either Drift was just really awkward. I feel like you could have done a lot more with it. The max speed, I think, should have been like a counter situation versus the speed to proliferate it. Because like you have a mechanic that's supposed to be about your speed and is one of like the slowest mechanics possible. It's just very ironic and it was awkward. There was a couple cool commanders here and there that came out. Hashatan was neat when we first discovered. There was the Orzhov commander that originally was going to be Blink that I was going to build, but I think I'm actually going to put it into Firelord Zuko in the 99 instead, just to have it be a little bit more fair. Ultimately, I just think that set, it just wasn't baked well enough, and they could have done really cool things with it. If you were ever going to have a MagicCon in Charlotte, that would have been one to do it. The convention center is right next to the NASCAR Hall of Fame. We're the racing capital of the world as far as like NASCAR and stuff like that. I feel like that would have been a fantastic time to do that. So I'm a little salty there. Either Drift could have been done better. From a lore perspective, it was weird. From a mechanic perspective, it was weird. If you factor in draft, that was really awkward for people because you just had to pick bodies in order to crew anything. Ultimately, that's where my least favorite was. On the positive side of things, this is a set that I didn't have a lot of high hopes for initially, and I think I criticized this on the show. But the more I got a chance to play with it and the more I looked at the cards and I got a chance to actually try stuff out, Edge of Eternities was fantastic. I was a little bit turned off by, this is just kind of, I think, the boomer magic side of me. We're doing spaceships and stuff and laser cannons and things in Magic. That ship's already sailed. That's one of those I kind of have to accept it and move on, where I think that was the first turn off for me. But like, we're getting Star Trek next year. Basically, Edge of Eternities 2.0. It's just going to be the case. My Brago Bracket 4 deck got 3 to 4 upgrades from that one set alone. Normally, when a new set comes out, Brago doesn't get upgrades. That's just not a thing that happens. So getting multiple cards in a Bracket 4 deck from one standard set is phenomenal. The Warp mechanic was like one of the coolest things I've seen in a very, very long time. Getting a discounted version of a creature for a turn, or if you can blink it or bounce it or something, you can possibly get it to stick. It was very neat. The lander tokens and everything in between. I thought it was a very well done set, very flavorful. Just a little anachronistic was my only criticism of it. And I think that's just something that I might have to get over myself.
Yeah, especially given the fact that a lot of the kind of robots have been in Magic for quite a while. It's just become a little bit more futuristic with some of them.
Yeah, it was all like Construct Golem stuff for a while there. Urza Saga was weird, but then they kind of like scaled it back. It's strange.
For sure.
And Phyrexia has always had that kind of robot aesthetic as well.
They have, but it's more like they're using robots as like their flesh and blood, and it's more derived to a particular race versus somebody could stumble through an Omen path with a machine gun and just mow down all of Innistrad. There's no lore or logical reason why that couldn't happen and why that wouldn't just be absolute devastation or like reverse engineering and then just pushing different worlds into the stratosphere technologically. It's weird to me.
But Edge of Eternities was definitely a fantastic stat. We'll love going back to the Eternities where they have more Eldrazi instead of the one.
Yippee!
Let's talk about resolutions. We'll talk about the ones from last year, how we did, what we learned from it, if anything, and then we'll look forward from there. Let's go ahead and have Joe start us off.
After listening back through our episode to make sure that I had every single resolution correct for not just me, but everybody else, the last year's resolutions that I had was, number one, get into other formats. Big check on that. Especially with streaming, one of the biggest things that I have done on Saturdays was for that purpose, getting into new formats, not just playing EDH. really going for it. And I got to play a whole bunch of different formats, such as Pilots, such as Pendragon, such as Leylander. Leylander was a very interesting one. Loved having the people on to present that. I even was getting back into Tiny Leaders because one of my partners is doing that. Unfortunately, the stream fell through for that one, didn't get enough people, mainly because I had 2 people who were signed up for it drop last minute.
That would do it. And that's not a format you normally have, just like a deck hanging around on your shelf.
Yeah, but at the same time, it's a 50-card deck, and it's typically 1v1. It can be easier to get it together than you think, because you can just bring it down from a normal commander deck as long as that commander is 3 mana value or lower, and the cards that you pick are 3 mana value or lower.
On the day, for sure.
The second one was train for a tournament and get into a top 16. Boy, howdy, did that happen really early in the year. That was top of March, I think, with SCGCon Charlotte. And I finished 9th using Evelyn. That one was very hard fought, very hard one. And then one player's super targeting of me and not the player that won that game knocked me out of the early starts of the actual cut to top 16. Kept hammering home. But I still got into top 16. That was still a cool $200 and still a good experience to carry forward into the future. And especially with a Grixis deck that not many people are playing.
That's the nature of the beast when it comes to a competitive 4-player event. It's going to happen. If it's something that you want to avoid in the future, you either got to do dual commander or you got to go to 60 card. Kind of your only options, because at that point, it's just you versus the other person. It's an environment. It's a bit of a shit show. We haven't seen a lot of people consistently win outside of maybe Ian. That's about it. Like, we've seen people kind of top 16 here and there, but it's almost like NASCAR. Getting to a certain threshold is considered good, and then somebody's going to win. It's really hard to predict. It's going to change all the time.
Yeah, especially since you just kind of have to keep going and tournament grinding. The third one, that one was get more diversified content in the Magic space. This year, I had a very lucky opportunity to help out with a charity function in which they put me as the host. Because of that, I was able to springboard into streaming more, into getting to an affiliate on Twitch, to broadening my horizons with how I was streaming, figuring out and stumbling here and there, but ultimately getting to a good platform to join the Lobby Pristinas, one of the featured streaming creators, focusing on one of the channels in there where I show people the decks that I have been brewing, because I brew quite a bit. Going from there to just the video editing, because that also happened this year. We got our podcast doing video editing, even with the updates to the bracket video where I put my actual face in there. I feel that got checked off.
If that's something you're interested in seeing more of, be sure to let us know. Going through and experiencing this and working on it as we go. If there's any feedback as far as if you want to see our face or an avatar, leave a note in the comments. That was definitely your 3. And before getting to the new resolutions, let's go ahead and shift over to Jacoby.
My first resolution was to have a deck in every format that had any traction to it. Things like Standard, Legacy, etc., etc. I did manage to accomplish that. I got pretty decently into Pauper. I played a bit of Legacy and rediscovered that, yep, still not my cup of tea.
I'm guessing that we can't really classify you as a pirate, because we all know that a pirate's favorite format is the Legacy.
I hate you.
Pain.
I got into a few interesting formats that were kind of exclusive to kind of what I was doing at the time. Didn't really keep any traction for a whole lot longer. I played a bit of Oathbreaker. Resolution number 2 was to do more conventions with the crew. Mission accomplished. Everyone who met us at Vegas, very appreciative. Happy that we got to go to Atlanta. It was a great time both times. I hope to keep repeating those. And then my third resolution was to contribute to the YouTube with content and editing. I did not get to that one. Of the 3 of us, I've had the most life events when it comes to roadblocks, to say the least.
Moving definitely did not help with that.
I moved 3 times this year.
That's not ideal as far as trying to assist with just a side project. We're not getting paid on this. We're doing this for fun. That's a lot of time. Editing is a brutal thing.
Don't I know it?
Putting scripts for podcasts together and stuff like that is rough. Ultimately, it's something that we enjoy doing. We do it for the love of the game.
Because the start of when I made these resolutions at the end of last year, I was of the mind that this year would get to be a year that I get to focus and hunker down on things I care about. And it very rapidly turned into a, hey, you got to move out of state. And then that turned into, hey, you got to move to the other side of the state. And then that turned into, you need to stay somewhere around here, but not where you're currently living. Not acceptable. It's just like, like I spent all year on the back foot. All year.
Yeah, that's super rough. But it'll be great for your Magic the Gathering documentary later on in life.
The year things went sideways for the Thought Vessel.
My resolutions for this year, this was definitely a very strange year where some opportunities opened up that I did not initially think were going to be on the table. That shifted what we were doing a little bit. The first one was the one I was not able to get to, and that was to pick up a 60-card format. I do enjoy playing Pauper, but as far as just getting games in whenever I'm not currently writing or anything, if I had an opportunity to play a game, I wanted to just play Commander instead of Pauper, so that's what I was doing. Probably circle back to that at some point, but that wasn't anything that we were able to really get into this year because I started writing for EDH Rec, and then from there, I started writing scripts for the EDH Rec cast. And that takes up a lot more time, and that was a lot more focus. Definitely shifted the trajectory of what I thought this year was going to look like because I did not realize that was going to be on the table. Definitely thankful for the opportunity. It's been really good. It's definitely different for sure. Second one, this one was probably the most easy resolution I've ever had. And it's over half the decks brewed need to be new commanders for this year. Honestly, I think the reason that it was so easy for me, a big part of it was Universes Beyond. Yes, we have deck techs, but even the commanders I was building, it wasn't necessarily like, oh, I'm going to go with this certain strategy and then find a commander. I want to build Eddie Brock. And I feel like a lot of deck building is now just coming down to, we get Avatar. I want to build an Avatar Aang deck because I like Aang as a character and I want to have a deck so I can play with him. So for me, it was just very easy because we kept getting characters that I enjoy. So I'm like, I want to build that deck. I want to build a Deadpool deck. I want to build a bunch of the other as we were going. I ended up looking through the year. I was like, most of what I built was just Universes Beyond characters, which is very, very strange for me. Normally, I'm more of a bottom-up kind of builder versus a top-down. So this year was mostly top-down.
Don't ask me to take that out of context because I will. I will just cut the because I'm a bottom and that's it.
Stop it. As far as deck building philosophy, this year has just been kind of deviated from the norm. I think that might just be the future for a lot of these things because we're getting more Universes Beyond and we have people that enjoy these characters. Your average deck list is going to look more like just a celebration of that IP versus actually building for strategy. And it's going to be harder to find stuff in between. I built a deck out of cards that are good. I don't care about what the lore says. I don't care about what the other characters were. That's going to be very interesting moving forward. And the last one was one that I'm glad I was able to do. And it's 20% of games with borrowed decks. I understand how to play. And sometimes, like, if a tutor comes up, I might be like, hey, what should I be looking for with this kind of thing? It kind of opened up a dialogue and conversation for how other people build their decks and have conversations. And sometimes they might, after I'm done with the game, they might ask, what'd you think? What's some suggestions or tips? What kind of cards should I be adding? What should I be taking out? After playing it, I have a better footing to give advice because I walked a mile in your shoes.
I'm just sad that I don't think you ever borrowed Cody.
Did not borrow Cody. I didn't see you at tables very often this year just because we were all doing stuff.
Yep. I have primarily played most of my games over the interwebs.
That's a little bit harder to get into tables with. Ultimately, it was less about trying new stuff out than I thought it was going to be. And it was more about just the relationship between myself and the brewers of the actual decks. So that was kind of cool. We'll shift into the New Year's resolutions for 2026. We'll keep that same order. Joe, why don't you start us off?
Number one definitely has a foot in the door at the time of recording, as I have gotten some response back for it, but it's to get Ambassador for a set. I had already messaged Wizards through the specific email string that they ask people to submit their ideas to Ambassador promos and stuff. By God, did I tell them I would love to be an ambassador for Strixhaven. I am such a big stand for Strixhaven. I love Cody, and if they gave me Cody to do something with, you best believe that I'm going to go all out. I'm going to go and message Amara and make sure that she gets a Cody puppet ready, because I would incorporate that. I would make sure that I would speak in a Brooklyn accent like they did with Cody the first time that they were promoting all of the schools. I would literally try to be that book for whatever they needed. That's the biggest resolution, is just getting an ambassador for a set. Because even if it wasn't Strixhaven, Lorwyn is super cool. Would love to do that. It's Gaelic inspiration on a lot of different fairy tale aspects of it, speaks to me in a literal spiritual level because of my Irish origins. The Marvel set, would love to do anything more Marvel, especially if they did another Deadpool. I'm so down. You cannot keep that from me. I will bust through the email wall to get to you, wizards. The second one, though, is I've also, with a lot of the formats that I've gotten into this year, have started building my own cube. And part of that is just getting the cube built in paper so that I can play at events with people. I swear I've talked about it before on the podcast. The name of the cube is Thief, or How I Learned to Stop Worrying and Love the Steal, which is just the Thief cube. Going in and not drafting the big bombs because you want your opponents to do that and then steal them. Or if you are in white, because I did think about that for white, after your opponents steal them, Levi's favorite thing, and blinking them to return them under their owner's control. Because, oh, hey, I see that you stole my creature from my deck or from my battlefield. That's crazy. Anyway, blink it back to minefield. Thank you. And especially if they steal it from your deck.
That's what we do.
And then the last one, and this one is probably the biggest one to try and go for, despite the fact that the first one was trying to get ambassador for a set. But this one, given what kicked off streaming, given what I've done for other people, I want to do a charity stream event. I want to give back to people that have supported me, that have gotten us to where we are currently, as well as giving back to those that are disenfranchised and maybe need that more help. I want to try and get a charity stream event up and running and go for it, especially since the last one that I got into by accident was doing the long planeswalk. If you're familiar with the long walk, they did a full 12 hours of Magic where it had rotating players in and rotating players out. Every player had to do some kind of endurance exercise or something endurance-wise throughout the time that they're playing. And they would get 3 strikes, they're out if they stopped for any amount of time, stuff like that. And then if a player was knocked out, a different player comes in. They start at 100 life. They start with a land of their choice and a soul ring on the field, and they can't be attacked for 2 or 3 turns. One long running game that doesn't really end.
Sounds terrible. I like it.
It was hilarious. It was fun. I didn't know what I was signing up for, and I walked in place for 2 hours.
We got to get you a walk-in pad.
It was impromptu. I don't know where I'd place it. Jacoby.
I'm getting a jump start on it this year. My first resolution is that I plan to adapt my collection and decks. I've kind of talked in the past about wanting to minimize my stuff. I don't want to have this extreme overhaul of excess in my cards. I get really bothered by the fact that I've got 6 decks that all need this Shockland. I'm planning to slim down my deck lists into one box that has like an organization system to share all of my stuff. I only want to have 1 Soul Ring for all of the decks and 1 Shockland for all of my decks. Organizing that box in a fashion that lets me go, okay, I'm playing deserts. Grab this, and this, and slap it out of the box, shuffle up and play.
It's exactly what I did to my CDH brick.
I get a lot of creative inspiration to play certain types of decks, and I'd rather have, at the very minimum, the land base sitting in the box. And it doesn't have to be this whole grand undertaking. I can just be like, yeah, my Mardu package, my land package, we'll just use that. If it's like, this needs specific lands, okay, cube. It can get into the cube. And if I find an excuse to play with them elsewhere, cool.
Makes perfect sense.
Resolution 2. I am a very big buff on lore. I was already super into Dungeons and Dragons. I already was writing a number of characters, and I've been writing a lot of campaigns in the last couple of months. I've come to a conclusion that I would like to have the Library of Magic. My second resolution is to start by making these custom-made books that I bind that hold the set history, starting with the very first set of Magic. This is what was happening during that time. And just a preview of every card in its release, what that looks like from that set, not the reprinted version. And then when I get to the newer sets, the reprinted version will be what I show. Grabbing all of the history of Magic and the universes and how Wizards interprets them being in Magic. We'll call it the Master Almanac. And then my third resolution, I would like to try and rekindle that resolution from last year. I want to make some changes for the YouTube channel. I want to finalize some of the edits I said we had in motion last year that I kind of just had to completely drop the ball on because that resolution was very important to me. It's still important to me, and I want to get it accomplished this year.
Very honorable. Please hoist yourself upon this same petard that I have hoisted myself on.
I feel terrible that I didn't get to do anything. Also, as everyone here was like, I get it. Moving 3 times really throws a wrench in that plan.
It throws a wrench in so many different plans.
All the plans.
That's like not even the most important thing that's been in my way. It's just the most like I point at it and I go, well, there's that. And people go, fair enough. And they wash their hands of asking me more questions.
Levi, I believe that's you.
I'll keep mine relatively simple, of course, because number 1 here for me is be more protective of my time. I need my own personal time for things. This can be pretty wide across the board. Some personal stuff as far as picking up projects, dedicating certain times for writing, certain times for actually getting out into the community and playing Magic itself, not putting myself in pods with individuals or archetypes that I know are going to just be wasting my time, getting the most out of the opportunities that I give myself to enjoy this game and my hobbies and everything. Being more protective of that because things can get out of hand and then I'm doing a lot of stuff that I'm obligated to do versus just things that I like to do. This is a hobby. This should be things that you like to do.
100%.
Second one, this one's more inspired by a video, and that is a lot about Bracket 1. By the end of the year, to have built and sleeved, ready to go physical deck of a Bracket 1 deck that I absolutely love, truly enjoy, not just built out of obligation or checking a box, just one that I'm obsessed with, and just have it with me in the event that a Bracket 1 pod opens up that I'll be able to pull out and we can play it.
Definitely hit me up for that.
Last one here, and this one is a symptom of the ADHD. Sleeve down unused decks and or projects by the end of the year. Everything that is in a sleeve is either in a binder or it's in a deck that is actively fully completed and being used. No like random pile of 100 sleeves, but like 20 cards in it, because then I can't find anything.
Oh my God, it's coming full circle. What I said that should be your New Year's tradition being your resolution.
We've already started on it now. We're going through and there's a lot of decks that I built and like maybe they're strong. It's hard to find a pod for them, or they're decks that I just don't use. A good one is I took apart Kranko because it was a mono red goblins deck. Where else am I going to use all these goblins? It's just taking up space in my area. And I have to think about when a new goblin comes out, like, should I add it to the deck or not? I just don't need it. I don't play it. I've played it so much. I don't really enjoy it. So it's gone. Just going through with a lot of other ones now and getting rid of some extra sleeves. If I've got 80 sleeves of something that I'm not using and they're all scuffed up, just get rid of them and just simplify the things that are around me. Avoid the cluster. My 3, just summarizing again, being more protective of my time, building a bracket 1 deck that I absolutely love, and sleeving unused decks / projects by the end of the year, and keeping everything else as far as progression as flexible as possible, because this time last year, I didn't think EDH Rec was on the table, and we just never know what's going to come up. Staying flexible, keeping the head on the swivel. Wrapping up the year of old to move on to the year of new. This is more the community or Magic as a whole rather than us as individuals. Is there anything that you kind of reflected on or something that you noticed in 2025? And again, this is bigger picture, not us as individuals.
We got less sets for Commander product, like I mentioned in our last episode. Parts of what we are wanting are getting heard, and then the issues we are having are getting replaced with different issues. I would like to see that scale hit a better balance, because we got parts of what we wanted with parts that we really didn't want. I'd like to see that scale into the next year correct itself, because I love getting less commanders and decks while still getting good stuff. The secret layers and the other things that are an atrocity I won't re-dive into. I need less of that. I don't want you to give me less product and then wave stuff I can't have that I want in front of my face.
As far as a reflection that I've seen, the community is coming together and actually making sure that new players understand where they're coming from, giving them good resources. There's a lot of new beginner products because Wizards is doing the Universes Beyond, and that's going to drive people in. This episode is going to come out a little bit later, but I did get one of my partners a beginner box of Avatar because they have pretty much taken an interest of Magic with me. With the bad that we have seen happen with Magic throughout the year, what I have seen is that even if it was not the full response that people probably would have wanted, there was still a good response from Wizards to fight and correct an issue. The fact that they did limit a little bit more on the Secret Lair website so that after what happened with Final Fantasy, it happened less. It wasn't ever gone, but it happened less. The fact that they listened with the most recent Monster Hunter Secret Lair, people came up and said, this set is uninspired. This set seems like it used some kind of AI. They took that community feedback to heart and did not put that on sale. They went back to the drawing board with it.
There's some very interesting conspiracy theories about that have been floating around.
In addition, as someone who plays a lot of Monster Hunter, who would recommend the game, there was just some lore inaccuracies across some of the cards. In addition to that, one of the biggest complaints I heard about was the champion, where they had armor they just could not have access to, and just the outfit being completely incorrect.
I think it was the Distraction Maker, so shout out to them, especially if you're really into game design or things like that, where they referenced the Sonic the Hedgehog movie. When the first trailer came out, the eyes looked terrible and people got up in arms, and then they fixed it, and then the movie sold really well. People are like, well, maybe Magic with the Monster Hunter set put out something terrible to get the attention, and then when they put out the actual product, it's going to get a lot more hype behind it. I want to believe that's not true, but also, like, as far as corporate tactics, though, that's a pretty easy one. It very well could be.
I think it's unlikely considering their stance on protecting people. Wizards' whole stance is an argument against that. And if they did that, it contradicts their intentions. I think the likelihood is 0. If you give that any stock, it means that everything they say can never, ever be trusted.
I feel like we're kind of already there. Every promise they made about Universes Beyond has been backpedaled at this point. It's gone from, oh, it's just going to be a side thing, or, oh, we're always going to give you in-universe prints, and then, oh, it's just going to be a minor part of it, or, oh, it's not going to be in standard, and then, oh, it's not going to be the majority of sets. It's just constantly crept in. Promises been backpedaled. I don't necessarily think that's Wizard of the Coast's call for a lot of these.
And specifically, given the fact that this happened with a Secret Lair set, as we know, they have a 3-year development time for Universes Beyond that are full sets. That's not necessarily the case with the Secret Lairs. This could have been a much quicker turnaround for them because it was a Secret Lair and it's such a smaller card pool as well. It's much easier to design a drop of 20 cards to 24 cards because of the bonus cards than it is full sets.
In the same vein of their promises about Universes Beyond. I think that's very different than the idea that they offer you a product. You say, this product is not correct to its source material. And then they go, oh, you right. Having more product versus correct product is two different arguments.
And it's also strange because you have checks and balances with the companies. Usually you'll show them concepts and then you should get the green light and stuff. There were some balls dropped on both sides of it, I think.
I will be the first person to say, and you'll love it or hate it, Capcom is notorious for dropping the ball on like a number of things. I can definitely see where Capcom did not specify anything and they probably just went, here's like Monster Hunter content.
My reflection for this year, and I don't necessarily think it's a doom and gloom, but it's definitely changing things. And that's that card design, if Universe Beyond is going to be the primary, card design's in trouble. Spider-Man to some regard, and then also Avatar are really good examples of this. Because people are so passionate about these IPs, the number one priority, instead of making a cool card and then finding a character that kind of fits the vibe of what you're going for, is I need to make a Spider-Man card that makes sense for Spider-Man, or I need to make a Green Goblin card that makes sense for Green Goblin. And then you're kind of building to that character versus just building whatever you want and then making the characters fit what you're trying to do. When you have a big enough scale, it's harder to do that consistently over years and building decks that people are excited about. When you looked at EDH Rec for Avatar Aang, the 5-color one, the majority of the deck is like a lot of the allies, because you're trying to do all four of the bending. It's more like a bucket list item than actually like a viable strategy. Most of the cards in the deck, if not all, are from Avatar. And some people, I'm sure, are absolutely doing themes. You're building around specific mechanics from that set alone that are going to be really hard to replicate later unless we go back to Avatar, if they do like a chorus set or something. You're building a lot of these commanders and themes and strategies that are going to be like self-isolated in their pockets because you're having to build around characters that are established elsewhere.
But a Moon Mist fixed the Avatar Aang thing.
Sure did one time. But yeah, absolutely ridiculous that works the way it does. Finally, just a little bit of wisdom to carry into the new year from what you learned with Magic. This can be more personal. Joe?
Keep Ruin. Truthfully, just keep Ruin. Find a card that did not have a spark of joy. Brew that deck. See if it actually might be much more in line with what you want to be doing in Magic.
Jacoby?
I normally have the same wisdom every year, which is experience everything. I will give you some new wisdom this year.
Yay, new wisdom.
Yippee. Remember that sometimes it's okay to not have all of the things. Just because the new stuff we've gotten is crazy doesn't make your deck worse and doesn't mean you need it. You can enjoy the game at any level, and you're free to ignore content if you really don't want to deal with it.
Mine is kind of a culmination of just the updates with the bracket systems and communications and just what I've seen this year. In 2026 and moving forward, I think it's going to be substantially more important for enfranchised players to put more stock in developing and cultivating your own playgroup and having people that you consistently play with and enjoy. And everyone's on the same page and you're not having communication errors and issues, because I'm just seeing more of a rapid spike in how people perceive some of these bracket levels. The best way to solve that is just to get the same group together that's on the same page and enjoys things the same way. You're going to have a lot more pleasant experience doing that versus rolling the dice with random people at your local game store every single time, and try to have most of your games be with that core group if you can get it going.
Remember, this is a wide, wide world of players and games and cards. We're happy that you're here and only can hope that your future in this year is happy and bright, and to stomp on all of the pub stompers before they can pub stomp on you.
Pub stompers. Then you'd become a pub stomper.
No. That's not how that works.
That's canon now.
It's canon now.
I'm Levi.
I'm Jacoby.
And I'm Joe.
And this has been The Thought Vessel. Have a wonderful rest of your day, week, month, and year.
Take care, guys.
Let old acquaintance be forgot and never brought to mind.